in one way or another. That bucket of issues includes stuff like insufficient entropy, plain text storage of sensitive data, hard-coded cryptographic keys, use of algorithms that are outdated or inadequate encryption strength, and there are a couple others that I can't remember right now. But generally, cryptographic issues are not very well understood by developers. It's very common to make cryptographic mistakes just because they don't understand enough about well, why should I use this type of random number generator versus this other type? Why shouldn't I use this cryptographic mode versus this other one? So it's going to be important to do better developer education in that category, as well as cross-site scripting and anything else that's near the top of this list. We think, we believe pretty strongly that developer education is key to, is one of the main reasons why some of these items that have been known for so long are still at the top of the list. Number 6, software of all types from finance and government sectors were relatively more secure on the first submission than the other industries. Not by a whole lot, 50 and 52% as opposed to the average of 42. Software-related industries, again, near the bottom there. I don't think this is too surprising for financial space. Anybody who's in consulting or worked in the financial space knows that they tend to be a little bit ahead in, or a little bit more aggressive in terms of putting their dollars towards application security. I remember being hired when I was working at AppSec to do a big application security rollout at various financial firms when a lot of our other customers were still asking us what pen testing was. So they have a reputation for being a little bit in the lead in that aspect. Government's a little surprising. You're probably a little bit skeptical of that. They comprise a much smaller percentage of the data set than finance, so something we're going to keep an eye on to figure out if that holds. One of our analyst friends, Andy Jakewith, made the observation that maybe this tells you a little bit more about the makeup of our government customers than it tells you about government in general. The intelligence community in particular is particularly interested in the type of service that we offer. So there could be a little bit of selection bias there. That's just another slide that asks, why is this the case? Why are finance and government coming out better? And the theory here is that cross-site scripting is at the top of all these lists in terms of the percentage of the vulnerabilities in each industry, but finance and government had a higher relative percentage of cross-site scripting, which has a lower severity level. So it's a severity 3 on a 5-point scale, as opposed to something like a buffer overflow, which is a 5. So it could be that because more of their flaws were lower severities, their scores weren't affected as much because they didn't have as many of those severity 4 and severity 5 issues relative to the software industry and relative to the data set as a whole. And then finally, number 7 was that outsourced software is assessed the least, which may suggest that the absence of contractual security acceptance criteria. Again, it was only 2% of the data set, even though that most enterprises are relying increasingly on offshore development as a cost-saving measure. However, since the motivation for using offshore is cost-saving, maybe one of the things they do to lower the cost is to not put security acceptance criteria into their contracts. Or maybe they just don't think of it at all. It's hard to say why this is exactly happening. But as far as we can see, it's assessed the least. I think that the introduction of acceptance language into purchasing criteria is on the rise. We saw when the CWE Top 25 was introduced, New York State was one of the first adopters to actually introduce Top 25 testing into their contracts for everything that they purchase. And we're seeing other organizations, both public and private, doing the same. So I think the trend here is that this is going to get better. So I'm just about out of time. You can download the entire report, which is about 35 pages and includes the 7 observations that we just went through, as well as a bunch more graphs and information on the methodology on our website. As I said, Volume 2 will be out in July or August, and we'll probably take a different angle. We'll try and draw some different types of conclusions because we'll have 6 months more data to draw from. Veracode has a blog, and if you'd like to contact me directly, there's my contact information. We may have time for 1 or 2 questions, if anybody has one. OK, well, thank you very much.